Welcome to a Gallen of Questions podcast. My name is Pat Gallen. This is my podcast. Today we welcome in someone who covers your Philadelphia Phillies. Her LinkedIn tells me that she was an intern with the U.S. Olympic Committee and Major League Baseball. She covered the A's before she came to Philadelphia. She now works for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Alex Coffey is with us. Hi, Alex. How are you?
Good. How are you, Pat?
I am hanging in there. I am not going through Groundhog Day like you guys are in Clearwater. I've been there before. I didn't do an entire spring training, but I've been through it, and it gets boring, right? Like, I'll be honest.
It gets monotonous, but there are a lot of, even if there aren't a lot of competitions in camp, there are definitely a lot of storylines between, trying to get back to the World Series next year and Andrew Painter attempting to do something historic, being one of the only teenagers to ever pitch in the big leagues. So there's a lot of stuff going on.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because what I do on the podcast is I put together, this is my mood board. Let me see if I don't know if you can see this. So there are several different choices you can make here. And we'll do like a choose your own adventure. Does that work for you?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So there are 5 pictures here, if you can tell. It's black and white. We can't afford color, apparently, here in this place. So you'll have to decipher what we're looking at here. So why don't you choose one, and we'll go from there.
I can't. It's a little bit blurry, so I can't see Bob Ross.
Bob Ross. There's a crystal ball. There's looks like recycling. There's a bull. That's a bull in a pen, if that gives it away.
What
do you want to go with?
I'll do the crystal ball.
The crystal ball. Okay. That's the most open-ended topic. Sort of a look into your crystal ball and tell me what you see when you look at this Phillies team, because we all know what they went through last year, but now it feels like the expectations have they're different, right? Like when you go that far and you sign someone like Trey Turner, the expectations change.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think that it almost reminds me in a way, like it almost reminds me of the Eagles in a way, and I don't think it's the exact same situation, but I do think that those two teams, the Phillies and the Eagles, thrive in an underdog role. And it's just interesting seeing the parallels. 2017, the Eagles obviously took that to a Super Bowl win. And last season, the Phillies took it to a World Series run. No, they weren't really on anyone's map. No one expected them to go to the World Series, and they ended up doing it anyway. So this season will really be a test of, how do they work under that pressure? How do they work when the expectation isn't just to make the postseason, but to go back to the World Series? So far things in camp are really light. The vibes are good. Everyone's smiling and laughing and giving each other crap. And, everything's good right now, but it's also spring training. So I think the real test will be, the first extended losing streak and seeing how they deal with adversity, seeing how things go then.
All right. So we'll come back to the crystal ball, because obviously you've got to look into it and tell me what you see at the end of this year. So we'll end the show on that. But let's try another choose your own adventure here. And I haven't done a very good job. I got to get a better system here. This is horrible. What do you think?
Why don't I do Bob Ross, because I can see him.
Bob, are you a Bob Ross fan?
I don't know if I would say fan. I'm aware of him, but I don't know. I
find him very soothing. And when I was trying to come up with something clever for a painter, I came up with Bob Ross, because I have a coffee mug with his face on it. So I figured Andrew Painter, Bob Ross. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. But we've been talking quite a bit about Andrew Painter and how awesome he is at just 19 years old. And it looks like he could very well make the leap from Double-A, being there for a very short time, to the major leagues. Dave Dombrowski seems like he's ready for it to happen. Andrew Painter, by the way, are we sure he's 19? I don't know. He doesn't seem like a 19-year-old. He seems very mature for his age. But tell me what you've gleaned by seeing him thus far in spring training, and tell the people out there just like what the ceiling could be for this guy.
Well, without having looked at his birth certificate or his driver's license, I can say that he's 19. When you talk to him about music, it's like very clear that he's 19. You will not feel more old than after you have a conversation with this guy about what music he listens to. There's just a huge generational chasm between me and him.
Me too. I'm double his age. How is that possible? Sad.
But he is very, very mature for his age. And one thing that a lot of his teammates say is that it's easy to forget he's 19 when you see him up there because he looks so poised. He's pretty unflappable. Today he threw to live hitters for the first time, and it wasn't an easy live BP for him. It was Schwarber and Marsh and all these guys, and a lot of cameras on him, a lot of baseball, I don't know, his teammates and team officials, like coaches, all these people were there. Dozens of people were there, and Schwarber hit a home run off of him, and he was able to take it in stride. And Thompson said at the end of the day, he said, that's a sign of his maturity, the fact that he isn't able to be rattled by a moment like that, that he realizes that he's going to make mistakes. And it's like little subtle things like that give you optimism that it might not be as bumpy of a transition as it would be for another teenager.
Sure.
But yeah, very mature, very locked in, kind of workmanlike in how he goes about his day. So yeah, it's been rave reviews down here.
Does it seem a little strange though that there doesn't seem to be a lot of worry when it comes to a 19-year-old making the leap to the major leagues on a team that has the expectations that the Phillies have right now?
I think maybe if you were an outsider, like looking in and just came in for the day, but as someone like me who's been here for a week, it's totally normal at this point. And they also, they have a plan for him, and they're very, every decision that they make regarding his development is very informed. There's there are a lot of minds going into this decision making. It's not haphazard by any means. So
sure,
he trusts them for good reason. So they wouldn't put him in this position if they thought that it was going to mess with his head or mess with his body. So yeah.
Do we know anything about that plan just yet? Because he hasn't pitched many innings in the minor leagues, and that's got to be obviously the issue here. Yeah,
I heard from the Phillies farm director, Preston Mattingly, that they're going to just monitor his movements over the course of the season, and that could be anything from arm angle, elbow angle, what he's doing on the mound. Just monitor it all really closely, and that they'll do that with all their pitchers. But obviously, you pay extra close attention to a guy that's so young.
Sure.
And and if you see something that might indicate that he's fatigued or hurt or whatever it may be, you check in with him. And I think that the general plan is to just monitor him really closely and just make sure that he's, doing okay.
So it's no longer just this many innings or this many pitches. It's they're looking at arm angle and everything. This is a lot different than it used to be.
It's just, the way it was described to me by Preston was more that it's just going to be data, data-driven decision-making, monitoring him really closely rather than setting a firm innings limit. And maybe a better way to put it is that data will guide, what his workload will be down the stretch, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I know you haven't gotten to see a ton of him. Obviously, it's very early in camp. But there's video out there of him, and there are scouting reports. Why is he so highly touted? Why is he the 6th best prospect in Major League Baseball right now?
Painter?
Yeah.
Well, I think for one, he has the velocity. He was touching 99 or 100 today, and we're 1 week into spring training. He can locate it. His command isn't all over the place, not like flying all over the place. There's the makeup, the maturity. He's actually adding a fifth pitch. I wrote about this a couple days ago. He's adding like a fifth pitch into his arsenal. He's adding a cutter. So now he's going to have 5 pitches that he can throw to hitters, like keep them off balance. So there's that aspect. I think it's just like a combination of things.
When I was 19, I was just like trying to not fail out of college, and this kid's got a fifth pitch that he's about to take to the major leagues. It seems a little unfair.
Yes.
Great stuff with Andrew Painter. Do you want to pick another topic that we can roll into, if you can tell what we're looking at here?
Yeah, I can't really see the other two, or I see, and there's a deep drive.
And there's a deep drive.
Yeah.
Do you want to go with that one?
Yeah, sure.
That has to do with Nick Castellanos and the inside joke with Tom Brenneman, but he kind of caught on to that inside joke and posted about it today.
He did.
But we are all wondering if and when we will see the Nick Castellanos of a few years ago. Had 34 home runs and became a free agent, and last year we kind of know the story of how he struggled pretty much throughout the entirety of the year, but it was really on display in the postseason when he would come up time after time in huge situation. I think he had one key moment in the postseason, and that was pretty much it. No home runs, walked 3 times, hit 185. The numbers were terrible. So we are all hoping that he will turn the page and become the Nick Castellanos of old. I believe we just heard from him down there today. Did he have anything interesting to say?
Yeah, I talked to him a couple of days ago, so I'm not sure what he said in the group, but the gist of what he said to me was that he, from a hitting perspective, he's just been trying to keep it really simple. He realized that he was just moving too much, like he was moving his bat, moving his hands, moving his head.
Interesting.
Like, too much stuff going on, and because of that, he wasn't making good decisions he wasn't able to see the ball clearly. He wasn't making good decisions with his play discipline and stuff like that. So he's hoping that if he quiets down some of these movements, that he'll be able to see the ball better and make more contact, and that will also drive up his slugging percentage too and help unlock some of his power. So on the hitting side, that's what he's been working on. And on a personal note, he said that it was just a tough year for him personally because, with the lockout, he kind of had to rush to figure out where he was going to sign. He was a free agent and then had to go straight to Clearwater and find a house. And, his second son was born in May. At that point, he still had multiple months left in his season. They played until November, so he didn't really have much time to be a dad and get to know his newborn son. So he really just spent the off season with his sons, getting to know that, getting to familiarizing himself with his newborn and reconnecting. And he said that did him a lot of good. So I think now he feels a little bit more settled mentally, which, when you're settled mentally, it's a difficult game as it is. It makes it a lot easier to go out there and play. So.
For sure. Yeah, and he did say today, I heard a little bit of it, that, he's a control freak and he's trying to learn to deal with that aspect of it. Of course, in a game where you can barely control anything besides, what you're able to do. But that he's dealing with that a little bit better, that should help, and all those things that you mentioned about him just feeling more comfortable in Philadelphia. It just didn't seem like from the get-go he meshed well, not so much with the team itself, but he just never really seemed comfortable here, and it's like half the battle basically.
Yeah, for sure. I think that this offseason did him a lot of good in that regard, just feeling more settled and feeling more comfortable and feeling like he belongs, for lack of a better word.
I hate to put it on one guy because there were some other players that struggled, but it just felt like if they had gotten a little bit more, if they had an average Nick Castellanos in that World Series, that maybe we're talking about last season a little bit differently? Do you maybe subscribe to that feeling as well?
I don't know. It's like I'm not a big like what if person. I feel like that usually leads to, that line of thinking can drive you insane. So I haven't really thought that much about it, but yeah, I mean, it definitely would have made a difference, especially against the Astros bullpen, which was like, not easy for them to face. So.
It wasn't easy watching. I can't imagine standing in there and trying to hit those guys. They were really impressive. Is there anyone else maybe then on, aside from Nick Castellanos that you see that, because with Bryce Harper out, he's going to play such a huge role. Who do you think then maybe needs to take the reins a bit in his absence, which looks like it'll probably be the first few months of the year?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question mark for them. They, they have a couple of bench spots open. Like Derek Hall has been mentioned as a possibility, and he's been getting reps actually in the outfield to kind of make him a little bit more versatile. And, what it sounds like what they're going to do is they're going to rotate through that DH spot. But whether like Hall is in the mix is still up for grabs. Cody Clemens is another name, son of Roger Clemens. He was acquired in the trade that sent Matt Bierling and Nick Maton to Detroit, so he's another potential option. I think it'll be like cobbling together. You can't replace Bryce, obviously, but like cobbling together, that offense in his absence. And then you can't forget that you have like Trey Turner now at the top of the lineup, and then that'll help alleviate missing Bryce, I think.
Sure. Almost an embarrassment of riches on this team, which I don't think we've ever said before here in this town, so it's kind of nice. Let's move on. So the final two here are the bull in the pen, so that's bullpen, or bullpen. This is the rotation. Oh. Which one would you like to go with there? Choose your adventure. Bullpen or rotation? Show the people the.
I will go with rotation.
Rotation. Outside of Andrew Painter, who we talked a lot about, do you worry at all about the workload that Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola had to shoulder last year? Pitched obviously longer than ever before in their career, going to the World Series. A lot of innings, a lot of stress. Aaron Nola's been a workhorse throughout his career, so I don't know that the worry is so much on him, but is there any worry there maybe that they've got to kind of hold back on them a little bit, at least early on?
Doesn't seem so right now. At least I haven't gotten any indication that they're easing them in any differently than any of the other starters, or it seems like they're on the same track as everyone else. So I haven't gotten any indication that they're hurt or that they're, going to be on a different track. They have mentioned the possibility of doing a 6-man rotation, but that's not set in stone. We don't know, if or when that would happen, but that would presumably take the, give some guys a little bit of a breather. So
sure. And with,
it might be helpful with like Painter too,
Sure. Yeah, I was gonna say that. And also with, I guess essentially then the rotation is settled for the top 4 guys. You've got Wheeler, you've got Nola, Ranger Suarez, Taijuan Walker. So are all eyes then just on Painter and what happens with that 5th spot? Who else would be in that mix?
Nick Nelson, Bailey Falter, Michael Plastmeyer. I feel like there's another name that I'm forgetting.
It's all right, there's like 100 guys in camp.
Yeah. Thompson rattled off like 5 names. But those are the ones that... Oh, Chris Sanchez is the 5th. Yeah. So, as you might notice, like a lot of those guys are versatile. Like Sanchez and Falter, those are guys that you could pitch out of the bullpen to, like swingman type people. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, obviously, Painter is the one that everyone wants to win the job. He's the exciting choice, but there are other options there too if they opt to not do that.
All right, then we'll get to the last thing, which is the bullpen. I'll spare you the mood board, but with the bullpen, a lot of new faces, a lot of new names that Philadelphia might not be familiar with just yet, but they'll obviously get there. Who intrigues you most of those new names?
I have to say Gregory Soto intrigues me the most because he's not here yet.
And I don't know him.
He's the only, aside from Bryce Harper, who's rehabbing in Las Vegas, Soto is the only player that's not in camp because he's at home in the Dominican Republic because of visa issues. So he's not here yet. He's still on track, on plan with his bullpens and everything like that. But he profiles a lot like Alvarado, very hard throwing lefty. So the idea of having two Alvarados coming out of the bullpen is interesting to say the least. So I'm excited to see what he has to, how he looks live. I keep having these near-death experiences in camp where I'm almost beamed by either like a stray pitch or foul ball or whatever it might be. So I'm going to keep my distance when I'm watching his bullpen. But
fair enough.
But yeah, he's the one that intrigues me the most.
Gregory Soto, Matt Strahm, Craig Kimbrell. It's a whole host of names, but certainly I think what we saw last year is that they struggled a little bit in the depth department. That does not seem to be an issue with some of these names this year. They seem, they're not Astros loaded, but for what we saw from last year to this year, it seems like they're in a much better place with their bullpen.
Yeah, definitely. There's actual depth there now, and while Abel and McGarry aren't really being talked about as much as Painter, McGarry could always earn a spot out of the bullpen. He looked really good today. His slider looked sharp. Thompson said he was one of the players that impressed him most today. He threw to live hitters as well. So yeah, we'll see. There are a lot of options there.
This is uncharted territory for me as someone who grew up in Philly as a Phillies fan. For like 20 years, they would just try to cobble anything they could together in that bullpen to make it work. This is almost, again, an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a new feel for them. And I was only here for a year, so I can't even imagine what it must be like for you. So.
Yeah, horrible. Thank you. Okay, let's go back to the crystal ball. Look in the crystal ball. Think about all the times that you'll eat at Frenchie's in Clearwater. We've got 162 to go. But does this feel like can they get back? Essentially, I guess is the question.
This feels like the kind of question not benefit me to answer.
You can put it there, and you can say I don't want to, but that's very diplomatic.
Yeah. I guess I'll keep it there out of just so I don't hear back from your listeners in like October.
Fair enough. But it does feel like at least Trey Turner, all the bullpen pieces.
On paper, they're a much better team. Yeah. So that cannot be denied. But the best team doesn't always win it all. So, a lot of luck is involved in these things. So we'll have to see.
Garrett Stubbs is still around. Is he still rocking out? Is he still like the de facto DJ of the team? Have you gotten there yet?
Yeah, he said that the Phil's win playlist has been retired and that they're going to start constructing a new playlist soon.
Wow.
And it's going to be a group.
This is big news. I should have led with this. This is huge.
Yeah. So I don't know what the title of the new playlist. This will be my big scoop this year. I don't know what the title of the new playlist is yet, but I'll try to unearth it at some point by tooling around on Spotify. Yeah.
Very cool. Alex, good luck for the net. What do we have? Only 5 weeks left in Clearwater. So good luck to you.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Thanks a lot. I appreciate
Good to see you too.